Welcome to Widow Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader, sitting here with my friend and co-host, Mark Massaro. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Good, Michelle. What is happening with you?
Well, I'm about 6.5 weeks from getting married. So
Dang, that's so crazy.
I know. I'm so excited. And I just realized I asked you how it's going, and then I'm talking about me. So
Well, and I said good.
that's it.
So I'm going to say good. This is what we usually do. Apparently, you forgot.
I forgot. It's been too long since we recorded.
And then you say, so what's been up with you?
Okay. So you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I want you to keep going. Remember the script?
Yeah. We have to have it all written out.
Well, wait, is it recording right now?
It is.
Oh.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, welcome to Widow Too Soon.
Welcome. Sorry it's been so long, but okay. So Joel just moved to the area about 3 weeks ago. So I've been a little consumed with like figuring out my new normal and like how to fit everything in. And so audience, this is my fault, not Mark's. Well, he was out of town a little bit too, but
yeah,
it was mostly me. So what's been going on? Having Joel live 1 mile away has absolutely changed my world in a wonderful, wonderful way. Having like a life partner, like he helps pick up the kids and take them to school. He got new tires on my car. He cooks, he cleans, he builds things. I mean,
you better be careful. There's gonna be women hitting Joel up.
I always tell him I hit the Joel pot. I'm like, it's not a jackpot, it's a Joel pot. It sounds weird, but like,
that's awesome.
I'm like, you're so amazing. And so it's been fantastic, and just having like another person to bounce ideas off of, and and then we're planning our wedding every day and doing those details and booking our honeymoon, and it's just like, it's so exciting. I can't even put into words. Like we were talking earlier about how like my life is so different than 3 years ago right now. 3 years ago right now, Luke had a few months left of life, and just it was a stressful, hard place. And it's just crazy to be on the other side of this. In fact, I was talking, sometimes people don't like think about how this impacts. I was talking to these moms the other day, and I was telling them about the wedding plans, and they're like, oh, it's so fun for you, get to do all these plans at our age, 29, and then my mom was like, yeah, I've been married for like 25 years or something. And I was like, well, I had to go through a lot of hard things to get to where I'm at. And they're like, oh yeah. But it was just like, they just didn't think like,
yeah,
I didn't choose. Yes, it's fun having another wedding. All that stuff is fun, but I didn't choose to be here. And I don't, if in case they're listening, wasn't upset about it at all. It just was one of those moments that is just like, sometimes I think people forget what we've been through. Like,
well, of course they do, because they didn't go through it.
Exactly.
So it's not gonna be at the forefront of their mind.
Yeah. And so anyways, I am so happy. We're looking for churches together. We think we found one yesterday that we absolutely loved. The worship was great, message was great. And they're very interested in my nonprofit. They don't have a grief ministry. And so I told them about Widow Goals, and they're like, we need to talk. So I'm very excited about the possibility of having a church to implement this into. Just a lot of great stuff going on. Peyton, my youngest, had his 15th birthday yesterday. So that was crazy that my youngest is 15. I didn't actually have any grief. I did last year on his birthday. I remember that. Just a little bit of sadness. And I was looking at pictures in the morning, just like, oh, I'm remembering the day, and Luke was there and all the stuff, but not like big grief. And he didn't seem to have any grief either. So I think, it's our third round of everything. Third time without Luke, and so it doesn't hurt like it used to. And just a lot of, I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, mostly it's been like everything with Joel here, and then just, it's so fun. He comes to all my family events. It's just been an amazing blessing to have in my life. The kids are doing well with him. Like they it's still not normal. And my youngest, I was talking the other day, so he has this habit of like, we all have dinner together, we do our evening routines, and like the kids usually go to the room, do homework or play games, whatever they do. And then Joel stays until like 9 or 10. We watch shows and hang out, and then he goes home. And I've noticed that my youngest, he will not come downstairs until Joel leaves. And I'm like, why do you do that? Like, you can come down anytime. And he's like, it's just weird. And he's like, it's just weird for me. And he didn't really say much. I go, like, because I'm with somebody other than daddy. He goes, yeah, that's weird. Like, it's still hard for them that. And then he just keeps saying to me, it's just weird that you're getting married. And I'm trying to get this, 15-year-old boy to explain what weird means. And the only word he'll give me is weird. And I'll say, that's understandable. Like, I would feel that way too. If I was a kid.
It's hard. It's gotta be hard.
Yeah. And so they like him, but yeah, it's still weird. Actually, Joel had a one-on-one conversation with Haley the other day, which I thought was great because he was taking her home from somewhere. I wasn't there. And he just kind of asked her how she was feeling. She said she's doing okay, but she doesn't like change. And then she was like, I don't like talking about my feelings. But at least like they opened that door to start talking, and she was able to be honest that she doesn't like change, but she's doing good. And it's been a little hard for the kids because we've been like rearranging furniture downstairs, buying new things, like trying to like put our two tastes together because we're trying to make it a home. He's gonna live here in like 6.5 weeks, we'll be married. So that's been hard too. They always come out. Haley's like, I don't like it. I'm not coming downstairs anymore. Or I'm gonna come down less or something like that. When we just rearranged the furniture and got new lamps. And she's like, there's so much change. And I did have to ask him one day to slow down on the changes. Like, let's just give the kids a moment to like get used to this change. Just like things like the way we were moving things around and cleaning the kitchen and getting rid of stuff. And they like, we can't find anything. Where's this? But it's all good. It's just part of the journey. And so all of that to say, like, I'm trying to remember the last 3 weeks since we podcast. It's been a whirlwind. It's been amazing. I'm very much looking forward to the future. I also became a certified grief recovery method specialist. That's my official name. I'm doing my first pilot session tonight with my first person, and it's taking them through this book. I'll be sharing more in the future, and it'll be something that I will be certified to do and hopefully help some of you listeners. So that's been really exciting to find something that's not just sharing your feelings about grief. It's actually a method to recover. It's scientifically proven. And so that is something that I've never seen in grief work. So very excited about that. So that's a lot about me. Share what's going on with you if you would like.
That's awesome. See how we do that? That's great.
Yeah, we do.
So, Mark,
I remember.
Oh, Michelle, it's funny you should ask.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I just want to say, I don't think anybody, because we talked about that Joel was on his way. I don't think anybody was expecting a episode from us anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody's surprised that you've been busy, and it's, so what's been up with me? Okay. I went to California love. So it was really cool. It was a very interesting trip because, I haven't been to California since I left.
Right.
Well, wouldn't that always be the case?
Since you moved, right?
I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. I haven't been there since I moved.
When did you move? I don't even remember.
Almost a year ago. I'm almost at 1 year. I've almost been in Tennessee for a year. So it was, I hadn't been back there since I moved. And it was very interesting because it was like, it's just, I don't know. Here, I'll just explain it. So something I loved so much about moving to Tennessee is that nobody knows me. Nobody knows what happened.
Right.
It's not, I've mentioned that before in the podcast. It's like, I control the narrative. My circumstances haven't followed me here. And all that stuff. Right. And so I've gotten used to that and I do enjoy it. So I enjoy going to the grocery store and not, being nervous that like people know who I am. And,
right.
And they can make their own, I don't know. It's just a weird insecurity I had. I don't expect anybody else to understand that or feel that same way, but I had this feeling when I lived in Southern California that like everybody knew who I was everywhere I went. Because it had happened to me, but from strangers, like I've mentioned in here before, strangers would, ask me if I was that guy that lost his wife to cancer. And, I just, it bothered me. So anyways, I haven't felt that in Tennessee. I don't feel that in Tennessee. It's been great. That being said, going back to California, I lived there for 37 years. There was a lot of familiarity.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing an In-N-Out shirt right now that I got from California. I got to have my In-N-Out. It was great. In-N-Out, by the way, is coming to Tennessee. They literally followed me. They're not so anywhere east of Texas. They have one location, I believe, in Texas. Maybe more. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I went to one in San Antonio.
Okay. I don't know. I think that might be I don't know. I know they're in Texas, but that's as far east as they
Yeah.
are. So out of all the states
Yeah, they
east
knew.
of
They
Texas,
heard.
they picked Tennessee. I think
'Cause
it
of
has something to
you.
do with the mass, migration from California to Tennessee.
Maybe.
That they're like, well, people will already know what we are there. So, anyways, enough
Perfect.
about In and Out. So, but there was something very comforting about knowing my surroundings so well, not being the new guy. Like I
Yeah.
know Southern California really well.
Right.
And I know how to get places. I know what this is. I know that is. I know the little, secret menu at In and Out. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk
Oh
about
yeah,
In-N-Out.
yeah. I remember you talked about it before.
So anyways,
Mhm.
trip to California was great. Had a good time visiting my in-laws, really good time. They invited the whole family over, so I got to see most of the family, which was just awesome. It was so wonderful. And you ever been at like a big gathering and it just goes really well? You just had a chance to like talk to everybody.
Yeah.
It was one of those, like sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't get a chance to talk to so-and-so or whatever. It wasn't like that. I felt like I got some good one-on-one time with everybody. So that was nice. And so anyways, that was my trip to California. I could obviously talk about that much more, but for the sake of moving forward, I am almost done with my GED.
Nice.
I'm so
That's
close.
so awesome.
I passed language arts, so now I've passed science. Thank you. Social studies, science, and language arts. Language arts was not easy, even though I like to write.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I didn't go to school to write or anything like that. So I don't know, and I only know what I've taught myself. So there's a lot of things I don't know and understand. But I had to write a 45-minute essay.
Whoa.
And then take like it was like a 3-hour test. So anyways, but I passed. All I have left is math.
Awesome.
So I'm super stoked about that. And then another big thing is that my friend Chris and his wife, well, I've talked to Chris and asked him if it was okay if I used his name. I never asked his wife. So Chris and his family are moving out here.
Nice. That's so, they where you live? Like
yeah. I just went and looked at a house for them
that's so
yesterday.
Cool.
Yesterday when we recorded this.
That's so fun.
It was great. Yeah. Now, they're coming here and not just for me or anything. They're they also want to leave California for several personal reasons. But Chris and I became really good friends, and so I would like to think that it has something to do with it, but
that's so great.
It was it's just neat to think about like having somebody that I'm so close with being out here close by. So that's awesome. Cool. So anyways, that's what's been up with me. I'm sure I could think of 20 other things since it's been like a hot minute.
500 years.
Yeah. We've had some rain. What else can I talk about? No.
Rain. Nice. Nice. Well, do we want to get into the episode?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So today's title is Grief Myths. Oh, I didn't wait for the drum roll. It's Grief Myths. Number 1, time heals. So there's going to be a bunch of grief myths that we are going to bust. We're going to bust the myths. Myth busted. Like the show Myth Busted. Loved awesome. That show. I remember that.
That's a good show. I don't know if it's still on.
I don't know.
Like that show too.
That was a good show. But anyway, so time heals, and I am guilty of saying this too. Mm-hmm. But I have learned in my grief recovery that is one of the number 1 myths. People think time heals, because I would always encourage people, like in my TikToks and different places, like I'm a year out, I'm 2 years out, it'll get better. We've said that a million times, it will get better, which is true in a sense. But here's what I learned. It is not time, it is what you do with the time.
Very important distinction.
Yes, and we might have said this in another episode, but you can always hear it again. Let's say you broke your wrist, right? So you didn't go to the doctor.
I wish you all could see Michelle imitating a broken wrist right now.
No, I've never broken.
That's awesome.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I can tell.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so my wrist is broken. I don't go to the doctor. I don't get any help. I'm just like, I'm just gonna leave it and see if time heals. Well, guess what? It's gonna stay like this. So I'm gonna be permanently my wrist.
with this terribly broken. I mean, that is a broken wrist right there.
Yeah. Or I break my wrist, I get the help I need. And I get the help. I do the things. I do what the doctor says. I keep it in the cast, all the things, the same amount of time, 6 months, a year, whatever goes by. I have a healed wrist instead of a broken. And your grief is the same way. Where your life is now, it depends on where you're going to be, depends on what you do with the time that you have. And so the reason also, I believe you and I have moved faster than some people is we had anticipatory grief. Like we dealt with grief before a loved one died. Now, if you have a sudden death, it's a completely different story. But we knew our spouses were dying. And so we had some grief before that and worked through it. So some of the things, and then I'll ask you kind of what you did to help you, because I feel like we're both doing really well for about 2.5 years out. You're a little bit less than I'm a little bit more than that. So basically 2.5 years since our spouses passed away. I definitely started working on grief before Luke passed away. I reached out to every widow I knew once he passed away, and I wanted to know, does it get better? And they all told me it does. So I was trying to get community. We were both trying to be part of widow groups to get connected with other people. That was so big to me. I have been doing personal counseling for like, I don't know, 10, 12 years or something. So I was doing that. And then I added in grief counseling. I did 8 months of grief counseling. It was all online because it was COVID. And it was like once a week. It was kind of some of the same stuff that I do with grief recovery. So I was involved in doing that. And then tons of other things. That's just to get us started. Those are some of the things that I have done with the last 2.5 years. So I guess this is kind of a big question, and we did things differently. What are some things that you've done that you believe have helped your wrist or your grief to heal?
Well, that's it's like you said, it is such a loaded question.
Yeah.
I cried. That was it.
Yeah.
I just cried a lot. I cried until there were no more tears to cry.
Yeah.
But
one last cry.
so well.
Do you know that song? One last tear. Brian.
No, I've heard of him for whatever that's worth.
One last cry. That was like my song with like my 14-year-old boyfriend. So I remember it. Anyways.
Wait, what was Brian Adams' other big song?
Do it for you. I do it. I would no.
Oh yeah. Everything I do.
From Robin Hood.
For
you. Remember
From
Robin Hood? Yes,
That's
Robin
Robin
Hood.
Hood?
Yes, promise.
You're
gonna have to look at it, right?
Take my life. Anyway.
Take my whole life too.
You're switching gears, but yes.
I would do
That's a different
anything for love.
You're all over the place.
But I won't do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyways, I got
so that's what I did. I listened to some Meatloaf. That's who that was, by the way.
Right. But one last cry. Okay, cry. That's where we were.
Oh yeah, one last cry. So okay. Well, Bentley, good boy. Sorry, go ahead. So okay, so grief. I believe grief. Let's see, how do I say this? Okay, there we go. Grief comes from like longing and missing.
Yeah.
And so that was what was the hardest for me at first, was like Lacey and I were best friends, and I really longed for her and missed her, and that was like the hardest part for me. Also, she wasn't in great physical shape when she died. And I mean, as anybody would imagine, somebody dying from cancer. I couldn't look while she was sick. I couldn't look at pictures of her healthy because I just couldn't. Well, when she died, I didn't want to look at pictures of her still sick.
Right.
So, sorry, I was a little distracted by something. Sorry about that. But
no, sorry.
So it was hard. So it was really hard. It was really, really difficult in the beginning. I didn't want help. I didn't want to feel better. I mean, that's like the best way I could explain it. Like I didn't care about feeling better. I just wanted somebody to understand.
Right.
That's what I was longing for. Is I got so tired, like I've mentioned here before, I got so tired of people saying, I can't even imagine. I can't even
Mhm.
imagine. Oh, I can't even imagine. That made me feel so alone.
Right.
Like I was like, gosh, why then? Why did this have to happen? Like if this isn't common, if nobody knows what this feels like, why did I have to go through? Why did Lacey have to go through it? So that was why I pursued uh, widow groups, grief groups, all that stuff on Facebook where I met you. Um, I realized I was looking for somebody that understood. And so when I saw there was this whole community,
Right.
thousands of people, how many people were in that group? 7,000,
Oh, it was
something like
huge.
that.
Yeah.
The one where
Something.
we met.
Yeah.
There were, I think, 7,000 people in that group. And it was like, whoa, all these and new people joining every day and
Yeah.
telling their story. And it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people out there that are
Mhm.
young and losing their spouses. So for me, that was where it started happening. But I really just I felt God, like, God says, if you lean into me, I will lean into you, or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes.
I can't
Yep.
think of it right now. I'm drawing a blank,
Or
but
yeah,
um
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, something like that. Or I know everybody out there is just knowing what I'm talking about. They're just trying to scream it to me right now. But anyways, but I felt like God was actually like reaching out to me. I felt like he
Mm.
was coming to me in my time of need and was providing peace for me. I kept feeling these like messages from him, like, she's with me. She's
Mm.
with me. She's my bride now. You don't have to worry about her. And so I think for me, it came from God's peace. God gave me peace. He gave me this deep spiritual understanding that where Lacey is where I want to be.
Right.
And that made me feel a lot of peace. But then for me personally, it was time, but it's like you said, it's what I did with that time. I spent a lot of time pursuing, talking to you, for
Mhm.
example, when we were like the only people we talked to,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, like this girl knows what it's like to lose her spouse to cancer.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
I remember talking to you about medications. You're like, oh yeah, Luke took that. And I'm like,
Right.
whoa, like
Yeah.
most people don't even know what I'm talking about. They're like, oh, I
Uh-huh.
never heard of that. I never heard of that.
Yeah,
I never heard of that.
exactly.
You understood well, I don't need to get, too graphic, but you understood all
Right.
the stuff that I had walked through. And so, gosh, it was just a journey. And to be honest, talking about it so much in this podcast has been really healing
Mm.
for me.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, moving was healing for me,
Yeah,
but it
moving.
was the pursuit of
Mm,
healing
that's
that
good. The
brought
pursuit.
so much healing. The pursuit of God that brought so much healing. That, like, literally
Yeah.
asking God when I didn't want to. And I asked God, like, please help me, like, help me with this, and I feel like he did. And so prayer, fasting, because I didn't, it's like unintentional fasting. We'll just call it that.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't care. I don't want to eat, like, whatever, just this feeling at first, right? You remember that, like, where just
Yeah.
nothing mattered.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, I don't
Uh-huh.
care. Like, I don't need to eat. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to die. Oh, well, like, that's
Right.
just how dark it was in the beginning.
Right.
Well, so anyways, that's kind of my start, if you will, to that. Like, that's
Mhm.
so I wanted to ask you something. So this is not quite on topic.
That's okay.
But with Joel, coming there or
Yeah.
whatever, like first of all, has that brought you grief? But second of all, like, in the main question that I want to ask is, like, how amazing is it? Because I just picture it's so amazing to, like, have a partner in life again.
Yeah.
Like, what is that like? I know it's not like, I know you're not married yet, but just, like you said, him picking up your kids from school or putting
Yeah.
tires on your car, like that stuff. Like, what does that feel like? Because I know, even when, so you and I, even though we've only been, widowed 2.5 years, we haven't had a partner
Right.
in a very long time because of what cancer did to them.
Right.
So anyways, that you get, I'm sure you get the summary of my question.
Yeah, good question. So first of all,
Thank you. This is what I do.
Nice. First of all, I haven't really had grief, just sometimes like, this is weird. Like there's another
Now, how would you
man,
define weird?
right? Just like Peyton kept saying weird. This is
Sorry.
feels different than I'm used to. And first of all, I'm glad that I don't live in the same house that I did when I was with Luke, because that would feel even stranger. But just even things like I have a lot of pictures up of Luke. And I did that purposely when we moved. And I think I talked to another episode how I took down, there was just like one left that was just me and Luke, like an anniversary picture, and just have family pictures up. But I also have like this wall that has this portrait that was drawn of him for our his celebration of life, and then like this memory in memory of him with all these pictures. And I'm starting to feel it's mostly like the portrait that I feel strange, because like Luke's looking at me sometimes. Like I just feel a little uneasy about it, that I might want to move it. I don't know, just that's the only thing that's been recently, like I don't know. And sometimes I'm just like, what would Luke think? Like I have this new person in my life. So it's brought up some strange emotions, but overall it's brought up like, whoa, this is awesome, because Luke was sick our whole marriage. And so he couldn't go with me to most things. And so Joel's gone with me to all of these family events, and he'll pick up the kids, which he just did right now. So I could do this podcast, and like, he's able to do the things that I know Luke in his heart wanted to, but he couldn't. And so I've experienced a whole new level of having a partner that I've never had in my entire marriage, and we're not even married yet. And so it's been absolutely amazing. I think it's brought up some grief, like I was saying, in my kids, just having me with another man. But they're getting used to it. And it's just this like extreme joy. I have extreme joy every day when I'm like, whoa, instead of just FaceTiming, like Joel's going to come over this morning. And, and we're still like trying to take like date night once a week, because it's kind of like we're in this routine where we're doing these things and these things. And we're still making a point to like go out on a date and do all these things. And it definitely feels different. I miss the excitement of like, you haven't seen each other in a month and then see each other. I miss that excitement, but I'd rather have him here every day.
Oh, but I bet you don't miss the day that he leaves.
Oh no, that's always
you're
the
not going to
worst.
see him for another month. You're like,
Yeah.
don't go. Please don't go.
Please don't go. I told him that the other day. I miss the excitement. He's like, do you want me to go away? I'm like, no, but he might actually have to go away and do some business stuff in Louisiana, which will be super sad. But then we'll
don't go away. Sorry, it was like the same song.
Singing.
I had to, yeah.
Don't go away. Anyways, but I'm gonna miss your love
the minute you walk out that door.
Please don't go. I think when we go around on tour, like when people come to hear us do our podcast, they're also going to want to hear us sing.
Yeah. And what's funny is the only reason I have the courage to do this is because nobody's looking at me.
Right.
Like, because it feels like I'm just talking to my computer. Well, yeah, you are, but I block it out when I sing. No, I'm just kidding. I'll sing, whatever. You got to give the fans what they want.
I know they like our singing. Okay, so a couple things.
Mark. Sorry, that was my own thing.
That's awesome. So, yes, it's amazing. I wanted to also read the definition of grief from the Grief Recovery Handbook. You guys are probably going to hear me talk about this a lot, because this is like my new favorite grief tool. But
it's a great resource.
It is. It describes grief as, first of all, it says it's the most neglected and misunderstood experience, often by both the grievers and those around them. Grief is the conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern or of behavior. So the grief is anytime that your behavior, like there's a change or a pattern, in your pattern. And so grief can be over something little, or it can be over something big. And so grief, every single person has grief. Like everybody experiences this in their life. So anyways, I thought that was interesting.
That makes sense. So it's not just from loss.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so you could be grieving over something small. You can be grieving something big. It doesn't matter. And the biggest thing that I want people to know from this episode is, because I've said it will get better. It's true. If you do work. Now, if you stay in the same place and you never try to get better, you're not going to get better. You're going to have your broken wrist and it's not going to be good. And actually this book talks about how you have to accept responsibility for your healing. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to like, no, this isn't my fault. I shouldn't have to do this. But you have to take responsibility to get up every day and to push forward and to make your life better. And we've talked about this before, like with all the different widow goals that you can do, like get out of bed, call on your tribe, find a hobby. Like you have to figure out what you can do. So more things that I did, besides pursuing like professional help, for me personally, that was amazing. Community. I also found, it was about a year after Liv passed away, Stacy, who's been on here, we became really good friends. And then we have another widow. So then we're like the three amigos and we all hang out a lot. And that helped me to have two other widow moms about my same age, with same age kids, to totally get this journey. That was a huge thing. And we still get together once or twice a week as much as we can and go on walks. And they're part of my board for Widow Goals. And we have dreams together to help the widow community. And then, finding hobbies, fun things. We also go line dancing, finding things that make you happy and that make.
Yeah, well, me, line dancing.
Yeah, I
always
know
makes me happy.
that was totally how you recovered.
Yes,
Getting in the
that's what I
middle of
did.
line dancing.
I just went out clubbing and
Yeah. Side note, bachelorette party, line dancing. Woo, so excited. So excited.
Really? That's
Yes.
cool.
Yes. And I want like a cowboy hat and everything. It's gonna be super fun. Anyways, that's my total side note.
That's awesome.
But that first year, it really, I know I wrote some notes down so I'd remember, but it's about, it's a really sweet time with God. I was just talking to a new widow. She's about a month into her, maybe 2. And she just said, she's going through all these things, but she feels closer to God than she ever has. And I remember that feeling of just like,
a great feeling.
God really takes care of the widows and widowers and has a special place in his heart for them. And I remember that, like, honestly, I felt closer to God then than I do now, because he was all I had. And it was such a special, sweet, intimate time that I cannot describe to anyone. But I know other people get it because they had a similar experience of that, like being up all night, just crying. And I remember turning on the music and pretending I was dancing with God, and like just so many different moments like that I would never have experienced if I hadn't been through this. And they were very, very sweet. And so I would say what you said too, pressing into God, that's huge, huge to your healing. So we have the whole spiritual aspect to, recovering from your grief that they don't talk about in this book, but it's about seeking God and letting him heal your heart where nobody else can, and letting him give you the peace that passes all understanding. That verse is so true because people don't understand your peace. How are you peaceful right now? How are you joyful? And it's God's peace. And God also promises that he is close to the brokenhearted and those who are crushed in spirit. And when you lose your spouse, you're crushed in spirit. Like there's no other way to explain. Those are like the most powerful words I think that explain it. You're crushed in spirit. And it's hard to go on, but he comes in and he does heal you. And so pursuing a Christian community, like other followers of Christ, is really important, who can pray for you and encourage you. And if you're not involved in a church, I would recommend like just go on Facebook, say, hey, I'm looking for a church, any recommendations, or ask around. People will have I ended up finding the church that we went to yesterday from one of my students. I was subbing and I was like, wait, what's that church you go to? Anyway, she invited me and we went and we love it. There's places for you to plug into. And so that's huge to be able to get involved. And then I got invited to a women's Bible study on Friday, which I'm really excited about, and just get connected because that's going to help. But I think also keeping busy, but not so busy that you don't have time to feel your emotions, because you got to feel what we feel we can heal. But have things on your calendar to look forward to. I did a ton of like lunch dates and walking dates with all my friends. Like I was always planning a week ahead. Okay, what am I gonna do this day? This day, and of course you got to work around work and all of that stuff, but always having the next thing to look forward to. That's something big. And then like trips. So for me, for the last year and a half, it's been trips with Joel. Like what's the next thing to look forward to? But before him, it was trips with my kids or whatever, like little things in the next month. What can I look forward to in the next, like even break it down in the next week, in the next day? What is the thing I'm looking forward to? Like when you wake up and you think, what's the thing? Because you really need that in the beginning when you wake up and you remember your spouse passed away in the nightmare that you're facing. You've got to then have something positive to focus on. So
and you have to remember also that like you are learning a new life.
Oh yeah.
You're
Totally.
learning like everything. And so that's why I think, because, you know, a lot of this stuff would be, a lot of the stuff you're mentioning would be important for passing time.
Yeah.
But that's not our only goal, right? But the important thing about it, why you mention it, why it is so important, is because we have to learn who we are again,
Mm-hmm.
because we are no longer identified with our spouse. We are, you know, for example, like I had to, like, I didn't have to worry about meals or grocery shopping. And I know, you know, most of our audience are women, and it probably sounds silly, but like that was really hard for me. And if
Yeah.
you've listened to us for a while, you know that I've talked about it before. That was a really, really big challenge for me, is to figure out how to grocery shop, how to feed my kids. They were so picky, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now, like they're getting like, I'm cooking these kids like gourmet dinners like all the time.
Nice. That's
I
awesome.
I figured it out, and they're eating healthy, and they're eating, you know, and I put it on the plate, and I'm like, this is good food. I need you to eat it. You need to eat some. And they're, you know, they'll pick, oh, I don't want that. Well, Alexis has now started, like, she like found a bunch of stuff she loved. The last,
Awesome.
she's been cleaning her plate, like,
Wow.
and I'm
So
putting like a
great.
lot of food on their plate, you know. So anyways, you know, but I had to learn that. And so this is an important part of it. So somebody might think like, well, what does grocery shopping have to do with healing? What does grocery shopping and cooking meals have to do with your grief and how you got through it? And it was like, well, because that was grief for me. That was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, it might be, you know, for those of you ladies, it might be mowing the lawn, or maybe you did that anyways. I'm not, you know, assuming anything, but just saying like, you know, I think you understand what I'm saying. Maybe it
Yeah.
was not your responsibility to think about changing the oil on the car. And now all of a sudden you're like, change the oil on the car. Like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't know what that is, you know?
Yeah.
To me, that's simple, but that's because that was my realm, you
Right.
know? And so we have to learn like who we are again, and that will help you heal. So that's the whole point I'm getting at,
Yeah.
is that yes, time is not just going to heal. For example, time wasn't going to teach me how to grocery shop.
Right.
Going to the store and crying in the middle of the store like a little baby because I can't grocery shop, like nobody understands that. Like I don't expect anybody listening to understand that. But me fighting back tears because I didn't know what I was doing in the grocery store. And
Right.
I didn't, and I was like, I can't even tell you how much freaking food I threw away, Michelle and audience. Like, I seriously, like, I would go to the store, I would buy a bunch of stuff, like way too much. I'd get all
Yeah.
excited, like, I'm just gonna buy a bunch of stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm throwing away all this like rotten food.
I've done it.
You know, but it's a whole thing, right? You have to like
Yeah.
learn how to do it. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. So while somebody might make fun of me for that or feel like that's silly, like I can rebuild an engine in a car.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm not like, you know, dumb or anything, but it just, for whatever reason, that brought me a lot of grief to try to grocery shop and to try to cook my kids dinner every night. It was really hard for me. But it wasn't time. It was going for it and doing it and
Yeah.
going through the things that you have to go through. And so there obviously is a certain degree of this where we have to give ourselves grace and
Yeah.
understand that we've been through hell. But there
Yes.
also has to be this other side of you that accepts like, well, I need to pick it up. I don't have the option to quit. I'm not going to quit. So all these people, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Well, because I don't have an option. I have to do it. So it's not time, it's intentional. You know, intentionally pointing yourself in the same direction of trying to get better, trying to figure this out, trying to get better. It's okay to spend 3 weeks, a month, whatever you need in bed crying. But
Yeah.
when you can get out of bed, it's time to start picking up the pieces, you know? And that's when you're ready. There's no timeline to do that. But you're not like, that's what Michelle and I are talking about, is you have to utilize the time. You
Yeah.
can't say that you're going to be where we are in 2.5 years. You could be further. You could be
Yeah.
further along in your healing and recovery. But the point is that you have to utilize the time to help you. Like, so you want to start dating again? You're interested. You don't want to be alone anymore. That's what it took for me. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I didn't want to date. I didn't want to be alone anymore. And so, but guess what? You have to go on dates. You have to
Yeah.
start meeting people. You have to go through the really uncomfortable, I'm limiting what I want to say. You have to go through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to realize like, yes, I'm ready for this. No, I'm not ready for that, blah, blah, blah. But like, you don't know. You have to go for it. You have to a
Right.
certain point in life, you have to go for it. And God will give you the strength to do that. So that was kind of the point I was getting at, is with the God gave me his peace too, is that like
Yeah.
he gave me the strength
Mhm.
to get up and go to the grocery store. And so what?
Yes.
So I'll go in the I'll go in the aisle where nobody is, like the rice aisle or whatever, like, and that's where I'll let out a few tears or whatever,
Right.
and pick up the pieces though and be like, all right, well, let's try again. I totally failed this time. I caught my oven on fire a week after Lacey died. I was like, man, we're doomed. We're doomed. Like I was like, if it wasn't for my friend's wife, like, I would have burned down my house a week after Lacey died. And because I didn't know what I was doing, but you know
Right.
what? Like,
You
keep
learned.
pressing forward and use
Yeah.
your time wisely. Use your time wisely.
Right.
Anyway.
I wanted to share another illustration about time heals and why it's kind of crazy. This again is from the Grief Recovery Handbook. It says, to illustrate the absurdity of waiting for time to heal, we ask this question. If you discovered that your car had a flat tire, would you pull up a chair next to the car and sit and wait for the air to somehow get back into the tire? Seems silly, doesn't it? Time itself does not heal. It is what you do within time that will help you complete the pain by loss. Like, I think that's just another way to illustrate what I said before. Like, it's
Can you drop your mic?
boom. Well, I'd have to pick up this whole thing,
Yeah.
Boom, drop, mic drop. So and those
There you
aren't
go.
my words. I didn't like make that up. Like, in fact, I was under this myth until a little while ago, like saying that it's time. But it's so true. You can see, and now it makes more sense. The more widows I get to know, and you can see someone 5 years down the road, 1 year down the road, and they're like the 5 year, I've had people that are further down the road say, no, it doesn't get better. It depends on what you do with the time. Like, hello, why didn't I get that? Why didn't I know that? But there's so many, this book really shows you there's so many misconceptions about grief. And it's one of the like most undertaught emotions. People don't understand grief. Like, the American public doesn't, the people grieving don't. Like, it's something that we need to educate people on. And that's why I'm so passionate about our podcast and my new work with grief recovery. Like, I want people to understand it. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, and how to use your like emotions and like use what's given to you to move forward in life. Like, your emotions can either work for you or against you. As a very emotional person, I understand that. But like, using everything to move forward, and that this is your responsibility. So, okay, you get the flat tire and you're just like, I'm just gonna wait. And you're like, I'm not taking response. Somebody else needs to fill up this tire. Like, I'm just gonna stay here. But you've got to take the first action. So maybe you need someone else, like someone else is the air, but you got to put the thing on the thing, the thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I filled up tires before, and you got to put the thing, the tire pressure in the thing. And then,
I'm pretty sure everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. It's technically called a Schrader valve.
Okay, thank you for the technical. So when Luke was really sick, we just had this tire that keep going down, so he couldn't fix it. So he just gave me this thing and showed me. I don't think he even showed me like how to gauge the tire pressure, how to put it there, and I had to fill up all the time. So I learned about tires. But anyways, like it sounds silly, but it's like kind of thinking the same thing. Like, grief didn't happen. I mean, it's not my fault. It's not my fault my tire is flat. So I'm just gonna wait until it fills up. I'm not going to do anything. That's how some people, I think, perceive grieving. Like, it's not my fault. True, not your fault. Just like with the tire. But you got to get help. You got to ask somebody to be your air. Like, you got to get some tools in your belt. Like, you got to get tools. Like, people got to get tools.
People got to get tools. I agree.
They got to get tools.
I mean, I was thinking DeWalt and Snap-on and, all these.
What are you talking about?
Tools. Oh, those are tools.
Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. I bet Joel knows. He knows
tools. That's what, when you say tools, that's what I think.
Side note, there's a new movie out called A Man Called Otto. It's about Tom Hanks, who is a widower. And the
It's
reason,
about Tom Hanks?
no, it
Or it's
is,
with Tom Hanks?
it's with Tom Hanks. Sorry.
Oh.
Tom Hanks,
That
sorry.
was good.
He is a widower. It's actually a
Okay.
real, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel and was going to clearly portray. But it showed the tools reminded me of it, because in the movie, this guy's like, I need an Alvin wrench. And he's like, it's an Allen wrench. Anyways, but the whole thing reminded me of the movie, which I do recommend this movie. It's
Okay.
PG-13. I think there's like a little swearing, but it's a super good message. And it inspired me to want to keep doing widow work, because it showed how sad and desperate people can be after their spouse dies.
Yes.
And then, like, I don't want to give away the whole movie, but like some good things happen, and like he takes some responsibility, and so anyways, highly recommend A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks. And it just gave me a perspective of like, whoa, some people, because he was older, he didn't have any kids, they just feel so desperate when the person they've been with for like 50 years is gone. And it really
Yeah. Well, I
encouraged.
remember that. I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's like, that was like the best way to describe it. It was like, this can't be real. I
Right.
remember just thinking that over and over, like, this cannot be real. Like,
Oh yeah, like
this cannot be what just happened
yeah,
to our life.
no,
Like,
it can't.
I just can't, so what does that mean? And it was
Right.
like, my kids are too young to have lost their mom.
Mm.
But then it's like, but there's kids, like, even if kids are in their mid 20s or 30s,
Right.
like,
It's always hurts.
they're
Yeah.
too young,
Right.
and I'm seeing the differences, I'm seeing a lot of the differences, honestly. I tend to like, I'm very empathetic towards people.
Mhm.
So, I tend to think that, other people have had things harder and things like that. It's just a natural thing for me because I see things from other people's point of view. So I don't know which is true, but I have felt like, gosh, I think it's harder when your kids are older.
Mhm.
Because like my kids they've had grief, and it's heartbreking
Yeah.
to have to tell your little kids that their
Ugh.
mom died.
Yeah.
Gosh, it just takes me back to that place, and I
Yeah.
just want to start weeping. Like,
Right.
it was the worst. It was the
Uh-huh.
freaking worst. But we've fought through it together, and they are, I have an alarm going off, sorry. They are susceptible to learning, and they naturally want to be happy, and they look to daddy to guide them. And when they see that daddy is being strong, they can be strong. They draw off of me. It is not like that with older kids to the same degree.
Mhm.
And so, watching my girlfriend go through it with her kids, just the different scenarios and
Yeah.
things that have come up. I'm like,
Mhm.
sorry. I'm like, that is so like crazy. That is so hard. Like having to deal with, it's because it's like, as a parent of a, let's say, teenager and up, they're going through the same grief you're going through, but and because they're their own person, they're
Yeah.
not necessarily looking to you to fix it.
Right.
Which my kids were. They wanted, as long as daddy is still here, like, we can, you know what I mean? Of course we've had some really difficult nights. I'm not trying to say
Right.
that it wasn't hard, but but just saying, they're pliable, they're
Yeah.
moldable.
Yeah.
I can teach them things, and they reciprocate, and they learn, and they do what I show them, and they can be taught how to handle things. They don't shut off to me, like is something else that a lot of older kids do. They shut off, and they hold their feelings inside. And I'm not saying it's not going to come up later in life. I'm not saying it doesn't ever come up. I'm just saying that there is a significant difference between having little kids
Yes.
and having older kids, and very noticeable difference. So
Mhm.
some things are easier, some things are easier when you have older kids. So I'm not going to say like it's, for those of you that do have little kids, oh, I feel you that like literally now you are the only one that does everything, and
Right.
there isn't time to yourself. It's all doing things for other people. And so that's hard too. But just as far as like the grief goes is what I'm talking about. So I don't want to make anybody feel like that it was easier for them with little kids, just because I kind of have my general take on which one I would rather do. I would rather do it with little kids, even though my life is harder. I
Right.
feel like they have a little bit of an easier time than, say, an older kid who's, anyways, you get what I'm saying. I don't need
Yeah.
to keep rambling
Yeah.
on. I feel like I'm, kind of digging this hole that somebody might not understand, but that's okay. Like, I'm trying my best to clarify what I mean. And I know I'm not saying anything negative or whatever, but
Yeah.
so anyways, yeah, the summary of all this is just like, you do really need to, and I like that analogy. I mean, it was funny, it made me laugh, but like, yeah, you can't just sit there next to a flat tire and expect it to change itself. It's not going to
Right.
happen. And it doesn't mean that you can't sit there and stare at that tire and cry for 20 minutes.
True. Good point.
But you're not getting back on the road till you change that tire or
Yeah.
pump up air or put
Yeah.
the little thingy on the thingy and put air in the thingy.
Like I explained it. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, I think this is really good for people to hear. And also, you can't put a timeline on it also, because we have a listener like Dwayne I've mentioned so many times. I just really like that guy. And
Dwayne. Yes.
he made such a good point to us that one time when we asked if anybody had questions or whatever, and just of how much longer he was married than us.
Yeah.
Like, even though
Yeah.
we felt like we were married a long time compared to a lot of our peers.
Yeah.
But when he pointed out how long he was married, it was like, yeah, gosh, that would be a whole different thing, even though kids are grown and out of the house and still like, gosh, then you're like alone, at least, I don't know,
Yeah.
even though I feel alone a lot of times because my kids are so young, but like, at least there's voices in my house,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so anyway, so it's just, it's different for everybody. But the main
Yes.
thing we're talking about here is that, like, we're just busting the myth that, like, you don't need to just run out the clock and
Yeah.
for things to get better. It's not like when you get to, oh, I can't wait till I get to 2 years so I can be as happy as Mark and Michelle are, because first of
Yeah.
all, we still have our grief. We try our best to, be witnesses to all of you. But that doesn't mean that I haven't shed many, many tears since we started this podcast. I've
Right.
shed many tears since I started dating again. I've shed tears for Lacey. I've shed tears for my girlfriend for things she's going through. It's still an emotional journey that we're on. And but at a certain point, you have to tell yourself, like, hey, either nobody's going to do it for me. Either I need to do it or it's not going to get done. I need to find my healing. So
Right.
that's why a lot of this, you all are already doing it because you're here. You're here.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
listening to this right now. You're
that.
already doing what you're supposed to do. So keep on this pursuit. And you will find healing. Like, you will. It's inevitable. Keep finding hope and resources. And my girlfriend told me something very interesting, because she listened to us for a while before her and I started dating. And she said that you and I gave her permission to laugh again.
That's awesome.
And made her feel like, it's okay to laugh, and several other things that, if I can ever get her to be a guest,
Yes.
like, then I don't want to, steal her thunder of her story of, what it was like for her to listen to us. Because just a heads up, that's going to be one of my questions to you, mystery girl. And by the way, we're almost ready. Like, I think she's almost ready.
Oh,
to reveal her
yay.
identity.
Awesome.
She might not be mystery girl much longer, but I think at this point she's kind of holding on to it because she likes being mystery girl.
Yeah. It's cute.
But she's like, I kind of like it,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
like,
cute.
that's cool.
Super cute.
But it took Michelle and I a lot of work. So those of you, if you're in the beginning and you don't feel like laughing, you don't think we're funny, you think we're dumb, and that's okay. Listen to our episode. It's okay. But really go back to the beginning and listen to the journey we've been on.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
And how much we've progressed, and how much we've grown. So you can hear what I'm talking about, that this podcast has been helpful to me. So, start your own Widowed Too Soon podcast. Do it.
But don't call it Widowed Too Soon. They can't call it Widowed Too Soon. That won't work.
Well, what about, I don't
Widowed
know.
One Soon?
Yeah, I'm not gonna Widowed Once. That's good. And that's funny because I didn't even notice that I said that. I'm like, wait, what? I meant start your own widowed podcast.
Yeah, there you go. That works.
I'm a Widowed Too Soon podcast. That's funny. So anyways, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
All right.
Speaking of, you said Tom Hanks, but,
right. Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan ice cream. All right, I'm good.
Good. Thanks. That's good. So I think we have covered pretty well.
Oh, I love when I get those looks from you. It's like a annoyed mother.
Come on.
You're like, really? Did you have to inject that?
I wasn't
then-
annoyed. It's just I was ready to move forward. So
Yeah, you don't see the things that I see.
sorry. I have a very expressive face. Whatever I think comes across, and my face has been a problem since I was born. So
Oh, it's awesome.
But I don't have a poker
I don't get
face.
offended.
it just like it is what it is. But anyways, I wasn't
But
annoyed.
look at what I did. I did not even sing Lady Gaga right there. Poker face.
Poker face. Yeah. That was good. That's
Sorry,
that's
I'm
progress.
just kidding.
Anyways, to wrap it up, I feel like
Wrap it
we've
up, yo.
really covered this a lot, and I'm just appreciative. The thesaurus.
Appreciative.
The other day, I thought of that.
The thesaurus.
Literally, I was using a thesaurus to look up a word, and I started laughing because we used to say the thesaurus, and we haven't said it in like over a year. So I wanted to bring it back.
I forgot about that.
Like
the
whenever
thesaurus.
we would mess up
Like,
a word,
it's
and
so
we'd
hard
be-
to say it without a list.
Yeah, but
The
then
thesaurus.
it was like our thing. Whenever we messed up a word, we would say the thesaurus, and we hadn't said it, so I had to bring it back. Anyways, side note. But
It's so funny because I actually remembered that I did. Again, I know this totally sounds contradictory to what I just said, but I forgot about this. I was in the chiropractor office today,
yeah,
and there's this guy that works there, and he's always putting dad jokes on this little whiteboard
no.
while you're like, waiting for the chiropractor to see
the
you.
worst.
And it said, what is the what was the joke? What is the something dinosaur? And it said the thesaurus.
Oh, funny.
And I thought of it and I started laughing, and I can't believe I forgot when you said that.
Well, I brought it back
But
up.
anyways, you
Anyways,
brought it back up. Yeah.
the
So yeah,
thesaurus. Okay, but I'm gonna focus back into what I was saying.
focus. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm glad you're all here, and we are appreciative. What does that look? Did you freeze? No.
It froze.
Okay.
It froze on my end. I don't
It
know
was
if
like
can
a
you
really
repeat
weird
it because
look.
I don't know if the audio froze.
Oh, I don't know. I was just saying, going back to what I was trying to say earlier, I'm very appreciative of each one of you that's here listening. Thank you for all the emails and messages. We do read them, even if we don't have time to get back to you. We do appreciate them. And
And I do owe a couple of you a message back on Facebook. I apologize. We're, we try our best, and
Right.
I will. My plan is still to get back to you.
well, this is a
I
volunteer
haven't forgotten
army.
about you. Yes, yes,
It's a volunteer army.
yes. If anybody wants to volunteer to respond to messages, for us,
Right,
we'll
that'd
probably
be
do
awesome.
a lot better at
No,
it.
I really like them, and I think there's a few. I try to take care of the email. There's a few I need to get to, but planning a wedding too. So
Yeah, it's it keeps you a
It's a
little bit busy.
busy time. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I think people understand.
yes,
Just please know, don't stop sending us
yes,
messages.
we get
We
them.
want to see your messages. We do see them.
Yeah.
It's very hard to respond to everything.
It is. It is.
Because I don't want to give generic answers.
Right.
I want to give well thought out. I want to really read and because some of you tell us these, very heartfelt,
Yes,
vulnerable
yes.
stories, and I don't want to just give a generic, we're praying for you or whatever, reply. I really want to reply and care about that you shared the information with us. So
Yeah.
word.
And speaking of that, would you like to pray to close this out?
I guess. No.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to throw you for a loop. Okay. Lord, we thank you so much for the gift of time that you have given us, that, that we can choose what to do with it, and just, the gift of having a free will. And I pray for those listening, Lord, that you would comfort them and show them peace and your love and all the things that you have bestowed upon us. And I pray especially for those in the beginning, or those who are still hurting heavily, Lord, that you would just comfort them and bring them peace and joy, and let them know that they're not doing anything wrong, and that just because they don't see whatever level of progress that they feel like they should have seen by now, that it doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. I pray that you would help them from this moment forward to find healing and find reprieve. And but we ask all of these things to be aligned with your will. Just pray. We pray all collectively for Michelle and Joel, and we pray that the wedding plans would just go smoothly, and that you would tremendously and richly bless their marriage. We thank you for bringing Joel to Michelle, and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you liked this podcast, give us a little bing, 5 stars on Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening. And if you want to review it, like with words, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's not going to review itself. You can't just sit there and expect the reviews to pop up.
Yeah. So if you want to,
you need to actually put in the work.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, we would love it. And you can also, we forget to say this, if you're not subscribed, hit the little subscribe button, and then every time we do a new episode, boom, it's on your phone. You don't even have to think.
Boom, I didn't even know. Look, I'm learning things. I didn't even know there was a subscribe button.
Yeah. Well, that's because you don't have an iPhone. Maybe it's different on Spotify. No, I don't.
Yeah, I get enough of that from my girlfriend. She's always ripping on me that I don't have an iPhone.
Right? Well,
it's probably because your phone sucks.
Exactly. I am in agreement with that. But anyways, subscribe, and then you get it right away, and then that helps our podcast to grow. More subscribers, more people know, blah 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 blah. If you would like to yes get in touch, email widowedtoosoon@gmail.com, or the preferred method is, because Mark takes care of it. No, we just see it more. I don't know.
Please Facebook Messenger
widowed too
send it to Mark.
Also there's Instagram. We don't really get a lot of messages on that one, but sometimes I get them through my widow goals. I don't know. We'll figure it out at some point.
It's okay. Work. You know what?
We make it work.
We serve the community with this. We're doing our best. Like we can't align our schedules all the time, so we're trying our best.
Yes, we are. So anyways, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. God bless.